can you provide a general context that explains why these new CRT and DEI and tenure bills are being proposed to begin with?
At the legislature, I could give you what's in writing and what they explain to you when you go to the link, but I think what would be important is to explain to you how things really are, because I think what we need to know is how you can influence the current process and not how it's written theoretically. It's kind of like when Rodney Dangerfield did the movie about Back to School. To really tell folks about what it really means to go into business. It's not just necessarily what you see in the textbook. And so the legislature is not performing in the way that it is supposed to. On the Senate side, Lieutenant Governor has learned to exercise authority to such a great degree to where whatever the Lieutenant Governor wants, the Lieutenant Governor will get. And we have some incredible state senators there. You won't find historically a better state senator than Royce West and Menendez and Miles. They're great senators, but there's nothing they can do with the Senate rules. So the bills that we're talking about will pass the Senate. And so we go and we make a record when the bills go to committee. So the bills will go to a committee and you have an opportunity to submit testimony in writing if you can't be there, or you can show up in person and you can represent an organization if you're authorized to do that. And that's extremely important. But a bill that originates in one house will have to pass that house and then go to the other for consideration. And if it is adopted in the other house, but there's been some kind of a change, then they will have to put together a group of legislators to try to mediate the differences to come up with a bill that both sides can accept. So that's normally the way that process works. What's actually afoot here is there is what critical race theory is. To hear the actual definition of critical race theory is so important, because critical race theory has been reduced, and this was what I can say from last session with Senator Hughes, and it's continuing to this session. Anything taught in the classroom that makes white students feel bad, okay, that's it. Anything taught in the classroom that makes white students feel bad, that's what they define critical race theory is. And if you go to the debate and you go to the Senate floor, you think that I'm oversimplifying it? I am not. I am not. That's what they say. And if you look at some of the initiatives like the complaint filed in Florida about teaching about Ruby Bridges desegregating a school when she was 6 years old or what have you, and about a parent filing a complaint because they felt as though that would make white students feel that all whites were bad. So that's really kind of where they're going. And so I look at some of the bills that have been put forth, and I'll just go over a couple because House Bill 1006 eliminates the language that says that one of the things that you do as a university is to serve the public. So they want to take that away from being a requirement. It eliminates DEO offices or any office that operates like one. So they think, well, someone may be clever and change the name, well, they get that too. It uses the 14th Amendment as a shield to bolster the opposite point of view. And it permits litigation to prevent a violation of the statute. So that means if you're a professor and you're teaching something and you have an aggrieved student, and we had a big problem with this here at the university, I know in the past, where you get very conservative students take classes from African American Latino professors, and those conservative students would not like what they were teaching. They would file complaints and things like that. They would kill them in the evaluations. That kind of thing now fuels these people to be able to go out, file a lawsuit to try to prevent you what you're teaching in the classroom. I think it's outrageous. House Bill 1046 prevents the embracing of any particular point of view or ideology. And so that's kind of interesting. So I said embracing an ideology. So if you think there's something wrong with, in terms of criminal justice with enforcement, you really can't say it. And so you're embracing it when you're saying, well, the data shows, because that's one thing about true critical race theory, it's data driven. And so that's extremely important to acknowledge. It prevents the teaching of any theory or practice that asserts that our institutions are racist. 1164 eliminates all DEO offices in Texas, the same as Rider 186 that I want to tell everyone. Rider 186 passed the Appropriations Committee, okay? Rider 186 will be considered by the House next week, okay? Rider 186 will defund all DEI offices in public schools in Texas. And so we need to understand that. That's already moving. The House Bill 5127, this one is just really amazing because it puts the University Board of Regents not only in control, because I've been on the State Board of Regents. We were in charge of selecting the president and the internal auditor, but other than that, we would have them approve one or two other officials. This one says anyone that's a vice president, anyone who's a dean, anyone who's a provost, anyone who's an assistant dean must be approved by the Board of Regents. So that means that's, I hope we understand what that means. That means anyone who they don't like, you have a different philosophy, you talk differently, they will eliminate you, okay? So we need to understand that. House Bill 5001 prevents the requiring of students to do diversity training. And 5140 says race cannot be a consideration in admissions. This is the thing I knew they were going to come with. This one reaches the HUB program. So the historically underutilized business programs that we have in institutions of higher education, you can do so under this bill for women, but minorities are eliminated, okay? So I just want you to understand that this is all about being concerned about this replacement, the displacement theory, and being concerned about the growth of minorities in this country, particularly in this state, because Texas is now 59% minority and 41% Anglo, so there's a real schizophrenia about that. So this fits in with all the voter disenfranchisement and all those. This is another piece of it, because what this does, and I'll be quiet, but what this does is you've got, the idea is you need to affect the white community as well, because we'll limit the black and brown community by making sure they can't vote or what have you. But what this bill does, it prevents you from bringing truth to students. So to the extent that, for example, you're reaching students who maybe are white students that come from different backgrounds and areas, and they are exposed to the truth, and they decide to that maybe they should have a different philosophy, this makes it almost impossible for you to do that and provide them this type of information. So what it does, it stacks the deck on the other side, so everyone will be conservative coming out of our public school system, coming out of our system of higher education. That's the design behind the bill, and to put each professor who stands in front of you in a straitjacket. So there will be teaching to you, not with academic freedom, but from a straitjacket.